stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Miller. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy. You know, when I was a lot younger, with a little bit more hair and a little bit less sense, I was on a high school newspaper. One day, a kid comes up to me with my story that I had written and gives it back to me and says, "The paper doesn't thank people for things." Well, you know what? I do thank people for things because I appreciate everyone who listens. And I also do something else that's a little bit unusual for the mainstream media, same-stream media, or as I like to call it, state-stream media. I make corrections. And here's one. This comes from Eric Kyle, who's a friend from the BTR chat boxes, and it involves the story that I did last week on the Christian patrols, which counter the Sharia patrols in London. The Christian patrols are not done by the English Defence League. They are done by an organization called Britain First. This has nothing to do with the English Defence League. Now, let's get to doing some of that thinking that the teacher didn't think people should do. First, I want to thank Ed Brown C. Ferrari, that's E. Dorado Brown on the Twitter, for sharing my last show on LinkedIn. Eddie, I really appreciate it. And hey, as I always ask people to do, if you have a favorite social media outlet that you like to share things on and you like what you hear on this show, please share it out. I appreciate it very much. Now, I want to thank Dan. That's Dan5 for kind comments about the last show. Dan has been a really good supporter of the show ever since he's discovered it, and I wanted to give him a shout-out. I want to also thank a good friend of mine over the Twitter in the Red Eye crew, the Red Eye Twitter crew, not the actual Red Eye crew, named Angus McFerret, for finding our last show's Awesome American. I really appreciate him giving me the bird dog on that one and not just giving me the bird. Finally, I want to thank Brian Glover, that's Smokey_TX on the Twitter, for posting my shows in his blog. Now, Smokey teams up with someone else on a blog talk radio program called the Friday Night Follies on Fridays, obviously, at 10 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. Now, before I get farther, I want to send out a request for prayers, good thoughts, happy mojo, positive energy, whatever you got, for a good friend of mine and a lot of other people who do certain blog talk radio shows and things. A lady called Sue from New Mexico on the Twitter. I've recognized her as an Awesome American before, and an Awesome American she is. She's a lovely person, and she is seriously ill right now in the hospital. So, as you're going about your day, if you can please do a little something for Sue, I would appreciate that very much. Now, let's get to the main thrust of the program here. I had something completely different in mind to do before something came up that I found rather disturbing. The other day, Glenn Beck, who I happen to be a fan of, was discussing an interview that Bill O'Reilly did with President Obama during the Super Bowl. Thanks, Mr. President, for injecting yourself into the Super Bowl, by the way. We really appreciate that. Now, there were some people who criticized Mr. O'Reilly in this interview for not being tough enough on the president and not asking him enough tough questions and not following up on those questions enough. Glenn Beck was talking about the reaction to this interview and was telling the people who were reacting negatively to, quote-unquote, stop it. Now, I want people to understand, while I don't agree with Mr. Beck on 100% of what he says, I do happen to subscribe to the Blaze, and I encourage people, if you've got a cable system that doesn't include the Blaze on it, you should be calling them and asking them for the Blaze. The Blaze is one of the last really good, large news sources that's available, and they break some great stories. And Mr. Beck himself, I think, is a good man, and he has made some predictions that have really come out to be true over the years. In that, he is not unlike myself. So, don't think that I'm one of these people that just bash the guy. In this instance, though, he is dead wrong. He's dead wrong when he tells us to stop it, to stop criticizing because tough enough questions weren't asked. This is the man who told us, and is still telling us in his promos, to do as Jefferson said. Question with boldness. Yes, question with boldness, even the existence of God. And I agree with that. Now, I don't tell people what to do, and I don't like being told what to do myself. I especially don't like being told to shut up. I don't do shut up. I say that while people shouldn't walk around in a philosophical muddle because they're constantly in a state of self-examination, it's a good and healthy thing to pick up the various portions of our worldview and look at them. I say question your teachers, your preachers, your parents, your kids, your assumptions, your observations, your conclusions, especially your leaders, and particularly yourself. That's what I do. That's not me telling people what to do. That's a suggestion. That's what I do. And that's how I try to keep myself honest. And I'm rather surprised that Mr. Beck forgot this for a few moments. Now I want to get to the part of the program that everybody likes the best. It's the part I like the best. It's known as Awesome Americans. And this show's Awesome American is James Fallon. No, not the guy who took over from Leno. Somebody real. Story comes out of WBZ-TV from Boston, and I'm going to post the webpage that contains this story at UBG Contact on the Twitter, where I post everything that I use as a source for my shows. Headline: Van driver saves woman choking behind wheel in Massachusetts Pike traffic. Boston. As the driver of a wheelchair van, James Fallon is used to shuffling folks around. But saving a life? That was something new. It was a moment I'll never forget, Fallon said. It was Friday rush hour on the eastbound Massachusetts Turnpike just before the Prudential Tunnel. Sidebar, who the hell knew Prudential had a tunnel? Back to the story. Fallon was taking an elderly man home from a checkup when he spotted a woman driving an SUV next to him, rocking back and forth. So he threw his van into park and hopped out. I was shaking. I was breathing heavy, Fallon said. James scrambled over and plucked the woman from behind the wheel as she signed she was choking. WBZ-TV photographer William Misservey was one of the many nearby motorists watching in amazement. Right in the middle of rush hour traffic in the rain, at the base of the entrance to the Prue Tunnel, Misservey said, he saved her life. Amazingly, Fallon has never given anyone the Heimlich maneuver. He's not an EMT, he's a van driver with only a basic CPR and first aid training. Thankfully, the chunk of food stuck in the woman's throat came up in a second. It seemed like a lifetime, Fallon said. We embraced. I gave her a kiss on the head. She thanked him and drove off. Fallon never got her name. His good deed witnessed by only a few. This kid deserves all the credit in the world for what he did, Messervey said. And so he does. In a society that's becoming increasingly more rigid due to government interference, it's very refreshing to hear someone step out of their particular job niche and move quickly and decisively to render aid to one of their fellows in distress. For his quick thinking and for his selflessness, James Fallon is this show's Awesome American. Now, I'm going to close the show out with something special for those of us who have 1 or 2 years on us and who question everything around us as if we were still in our 20s. People may think we're at the end of the line, but we're just starting. Everyone who listens, I appreciate you all. Until next time, thank you, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.
thinks you can. Well, it's alright, as long as you lend a hand.
You can sit around and wait for the phone to ring, waiting for someone to tell you everything. Sit around and wonder what tomorrow will bring. Maybe a diamond ring.